Hello and welcome to Rock Paper Shotgun, where I've spent the last 5 days squatting behind benches and shooting at crabs. It's the kind of behaviour that got me banned from my local aquarium, but in Phoenix Point, it's encouraged. In this turn-based strategy game, the sea is taking revenge for years of mistreatment. The melting ice caps release a dormant virus, which turns all those happy singing crabs into this fucking nightmare. Fish fingers are now attached to fish fists, and they are going to put us in our place. And yes, that was a fish gag. Considering the last game I played was Drab Cod, that's an abbreviation of Call of Duty, not a fish gag, the promise of an army of squids with machine guns was enough to put Phoenix Point on my radar, but it's also notable for being headed up by Julian Gollop, the co-creator of Xcom, with Firaxis having revolutionised Xcom by removing the hyphen and adding some other features. Phoenix Point feels like Gollop's chance to show how he would have dragged Xcom into the 21st century, and as it turns out, he would have done it a lot like Firaxis too. But rather than focus on the similarities, which should be pretty clear from watching the game in motion, I want to highlight what makes Phoenix Point tick, the formula tweaks that work brilliantly and a few areas where it maybe struggles. It's important to note I'm not approaching the game from the perspective of a hardcore XCOM veteran. The only Iron Man campaign I've ever completed was this terrible Nintendo DS game. Whether it'll hold up to months of replays is hard to predict, but I'm hoping these impressions will capture the general shape of the game. Before I do that, a quick thanks to Displate for sponsoring the channel. Displate make lovely metal posters, and we've collected our favourites in our store. The link to that is in the description. If you do buy one, we get a bit of that money, which I will be using to pay my fines to the local aquarium. Of course, if you'd rather support us by giving the video a like and subscribe, that would also really make my day. Let's kick off by thanking those who crowdfunded the game, specifically those who got the money pot to the stretch goal to include these drivable vehicles, because this is a brilliantly stupid toy. Just look at this brute knocking down benches, walls and small forests. It's like a drunk Godzilla giving not one fuck about how little of the world it leaves standing. If you do manage to reclaim the Earth for humanity, how are you going to explain the devastation this giant metal bastard has left in its wake? I especially love the way it totally guts any civilian rescue missions. You just feed your target into the metal belly and then click on the extraction point. Is this a cheese tactic? If it is, it's a good cheese. It's the Sainsbury's Taste the Difference baking camembert. The only sad thing is that the Pandoran layers, where the really nasty stuff happens, are so full of rocks, it means I have to leave my favourite squad member in the parking lot. Good night, sweet prince. Besides driving a monster truck over squid men, if there's one thing that defines Phoenix Point against XCOM, it's flexibility. Not the sexiest sales pitch, and now you know why I started with a truck, but something that changes the rhythm of a strategy game. Where modern XCOM has two rigid action phases, one to move your legs and one to move your trigger finger, Phoenix Point lets you get granular and move on a step-by-step basis. Everything you do eats into these 4 action points, but not all at once. You can use half a bar to step a few tiles out, then spend 3 whole points to shoot, and then use that fraction of an action point to step back behind cover. One of the more useful things about this is that if you spot an enemy during a sprint, you'll stop, letting you swap those jogging points for some extreme violence points. Convenient, as jogging largely makes me want to do extreme violence. These micro adjustments are vital for Phoenix Point's other cool trick, the option for manual first-person aiming. Select normal fire and you'll aim at a fishman as you would an alien in XCOM. There's no percentage chance here though, instead it uses a reticule to show the likeliness of a hit. Everything will land in the big circle, with a 50% chance of hitting that smaller bullseye. But manual aiming lets you finesse that shot or gamble on a more unlikely target. If you can see a fishman's elbow poking out behind cover, you might be able to get a bullet right into his funny bone. In this light, the ability to take baby steps makes so much sense. You're looking for those sneaky angles, maybe to find the tiny window of gooey flesh hidden behind the exterior shell. This stuff matters because it's very easy to fall into habits in strategy games, the tried and tested best practice. And while I'm sure people will sniff these techniques out, the fuzziness around the edges of Phoenix Point's ideas means it's not so cut and dry. You'll find opportunities that surprise you, even after 30 hours with the thing. And to me, this feels very strategically rich. And if that sounds a bit vague, let me talk about some more specifics. The first-person aiming, for example, isn't just about landing riskier shots, but landing smarter shots too. A bit like Fallout's VATS, manual aiming lets you target specific body parts, in turn letting you disable attacks used by those body parts. The second I see one of these sirens, mind-controlling motherfuckers who can easily wipe your team out, I'm pumping every sniper bullet I have into their stupid heads. Likewise, emptying lead into fish torsos to shut down the pain chameleon power that sees them vanish and then skitter off. I'm also a big fan of shooting rifles in half, forcing burly human warriors to look a bit sheepish with their tiny handguns instead. Don't chuckle too hard, as they can do the same to you. A lot of the magic of Xcom, both Gollop's original and the modern version, lies in tension, the notion that you are always on the back foot. For me, this system of neutralising your least favourite attacks plays into the siege mentality brilliantly. In one amazing battle in a forest tomb, I found half my squad glued in place from a goo cannon and swarms of sirens and frenzied minions descending on them. It's here, with your back against the wall, that you have to make every shot count, and the option to place that lead exactly where you want it gives this a level of drama and stress that a broader shooting system simply can't. Confession time, I eventually shit this battle up the wall, but for the few minutes that I thought I could neutralise the threat, this was about as thrilling as turn-based strategy gets.
I can't move right.
An even better trick with aiming is using it in tandem with destructible environments to carve your own way through the levels. Now, to be honest, some of the destructible stuff can look ropey. Buildings appear to be built from large chunks of polystyrene that collapse unconvincingly and then just sort of vanish out of existence in embarrassment. But I've always wanted a strategy game where you have the freedom to properly alter the world, not just breaking away cover, but blasting open new doorways if the main entrance is under Overwatch, or firing a grenade into reinforced glass and then having all my gunmen pour their lead through the new hole. One of my favourite Phoenix Point moments was blasting this perfectly waist-high window only to realise that I had accidentally built a tiny face-hugger doorway straight to my head. I will say that for all the fun of destruction, it does feel rougher around the edges than other systems. I've seen the AI take a couple of clever opportunities with it, but they are generally not very creative when it comes to making new doors or opening up fresh lines of sight. The fact that switching to first-person aiming will latch onto the nearest enemy is also a bit of a pain, as you have to slowly swivel your aim at whatever it is you want to shoot. It gives you the impression that the Demolition Man routine is kind of playing the game wrong, and that you shouldn't really be aiming guns at walls, which is a shame, as it's one of the best things about the game. Let's zoom out a bit. Outside of turn-based battles, you'll spend most of your time staring at this screen and possibly weeping because you can't keep on top of everything at once. The Geoscape shows the global battle that you're waging against Pandoran forces. This is probably the biggest departure from modern Xcom in that it throws a lot more at you than simple base management, although Xcom did have a prettier base than these boring pictures, so I can understand why it wanted to spend so much time there. At the heart of the Geoscape is a search for answers about the aquatic threat and potential technology to deal with it. It has the feel of a scavenger hunt. You fly to mystery locations and pray they offer you answers instead of an angry crab ambush. In order to push through the story, you'll need access to the entire world, so much of the game is spent trying to grow your network of Phoenix bases. With more bases come more facilities to speed up research, more satellites to scan the globe for new exploration sites, and more room for soldiers and vehicles. Having multiple squads in helicopters allows you to police multiple continents at once, or bundle several squads to the same battle for an even bigger squad. For the most part, I love the buzz of Geoscape, the satisfaction of slowly spreading your influence or discovering a small story event that paints a better picture of the world that you're trying to save. It finds a chewy tension as you debate whether to send a fatigued squad on the long trip back to a base or to push on to the next question mark. When a soldier is out of stamina, he enters battle with fewer action points, so it's a risk to march onwards. It feels like you're having to make a lot more decisions and on many more fronts than you ever did in Xcom, but it's not so knotty that it veers into 4X strategy territory. For something like that, you'll probably want to try Planetfall Age of Wonders. There should be a link to our review in the top right of the screen. Just as the Geoscape gives the action, scale and density without slipping into baffling complexity, so the faction system offers just the right level of snappy diplomacy. I mentioned that you police continents, and that's because so much can go wrong. The spread of Pandoran mist sees nests and layers spawning near to human havens, which can lead to attacks you'll need to fend off if you want to keep those havens alive. Doing so keeps them as trading partners and recruitment centres. But then you also have conflict between three rival factions. There's the Let's Murder Them All generals of New Jericho, there's the Children of Anu, who just want to be friends with the fish, and then there's Sinedrian, who are the scientific masterminds behind fancy weapons and presumably cleaning chemicals, based on how spotless their bases are. I mean, look at this, you could eat your dinner off that floor. The more you help a faction by performing special story missions or sabotaging enemy havens, the more support they offer, from special unit types to pre-researched items. Sabotage missions make a nice change of pace from simply eliminating Pandoran forces, although I did feel pangs of guilt as I applied my advanced military tech to wiping out silly little farms. Knowing how much bloody effort it takes to get anything built in Phoenix Point, you do feel like a total sod if you take this route. But then my new psychotic mates in New Jericho did teach me how to build armour-piercing sniper rifles, so it swings and roundabouts. But still, it's cool to see the game pondering not just how to save the world, but what kind of world it should be. Certainly I see myself taking this trip a few more times to see how differently things can play out with other factions. Alas, there's some self-sabotage too. The big black mark against Phoenix Point is that it is technically rough and prone to some bonkers bugs. I've had an on-running problem where the mouse cursor becomes untethered from the action, forcing me to enter the options screen to reset it. Several times the end turn button has broken, leaving my poor little virtual soldiers in eternal limbo, and a few times it has refused to save. At first I thought I'd hit a save file limit, but exiting the game seemed to sort that one out. The fact that the game has Epic exclusivity was a nasty upset earlier in the year, but I honestly think that waiting to play it on Steam might be the better option, given the slightly wonky state of things here. Also, while I'm having a moan, it's not a bug, but the game boasts some absolutely horrible interior locations which are so visually cluttered that it's very difficult to read lines of sight and plan accordingly. It would be less of a problem if a couple of the worst offenders didn't keep cropping up in the procedurally generated levels. Of course, if anyone from Snapshot is watching, I'd rather they fix the demented mouse cursor thing first. These problems are a shame, as I've had a great time with Phoenix Point, a game I expected to be a slightly budget clone. I mean, you're putting crowdfunding against the financial might of 2K, but the game has real character. Whether you're on the ground or hovering above the globe, I think Phoenix Point treads a fine line between clarity and chaos. It's definitely not as clean-cut as modern Xcom, a game whose masterstroke was to take this incredibly complicated genre and simply amplify it into something sleek and console friendly. Phoenix Point nails some weird stuff onto that skeleton, the freeome, the Geoscape, granular movement, and it loses those smooth edges in the process, but I enjoyed playing with those wrinkles and having something fresh to chew over. I often think these games are never as good as the first time you play them, when you don't know what horrible trick every monster can pull and every tactic you devise feels like a genuine revelation. In this sense, Phoenix Point has plenty of surprises and lessons to teach, and unlike Xcom, where things tend to start hard and see you gradually ascend to alien smashing godhood, Phoenix Point manages to keep the pressure on throughout. The further your network extends, the more fires you're trying to put out, counterbalancing the leaps that you're making in research. It's compelling stuff. In fact, I'm going to finish this video edit and jump straight back in. I mean, hey, it's not like I can visit the local aquarium. So there we go, we started with fish and we ended with bugs. Thanks for watching this Phoenix Point review all the way to the end. If you did enjoy this review, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. We do loads of videos like this, and you should watch them all. If you really love this video, you can support the channel through our Displate store. Please do use the link to check out our personal picks. There's over 500,000 designs, and Displate's unique metal posters are built to last and use a magnet mounting system that doesn't involve drilling into your walls with power tools, which is always good. And not only will you be supporting the channel, but you'll be supporting the environment. For every Displate sold, 10 trees are planted. And if you have any Phoenix Point questions, why not pop them below? Even better, share your own reviews of the game. I'm very keen to hear from anyone who backed the game. Thanks so much for watching Rock Paper Shotgun, and I'll hopefully see you again soon. Bye for now.
Identifying target.